Hi, it's Debbie Williams here. I'm an NLP trainer and hypnotherapist, and today I'd like to talk about guilt. Now, when I work with clients, the word guilt comes up quite often because it seems to prevent them from achieving what they want to achieve, because they've got this heavy emotion stuck inside their mind that literally is occupying their thoughts. What I want to share with you is a mini trance in a moment to help lift any guilt from your life, but also the point for you to realise that guilt is an emotion, and we need emotions because they give us a stimulus to take some action. So we get hooked up in thinking that emotions, because they feel powerful, they must be important. But we misinterpret them to what they actually are, and we get stuck into, oh gosh, I feel so guilty because I let my parents down and I did this and I hurt that person, etc, etc, etc. Instead of looking at emotions, really, they're messengers. They're trying to say to us that something isn't right, something needs to be addressed. So the question we need to ask really is, okay, what's it teaching me? How can I grow from this? How can I evolve this? What can I do to make the best of the situation so that I'm not carrying this for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years, which happens a lot with people who maybe at a young age they've had, for whatever reason, an abortion, and then later on they may go on to have 2 or 3 kids, but inside their mind all of a sudden this guilt appears of, they feel like, oh, I've killed a baby back then, yet back at that time they made the best decision they could with the resources they had. And I'm not making any judgments here on what's right or wrong, but if something's happened, we can't go back and change that. We have to deal with the situation now. And if somebody's carrying all the pain of regret, then they're not in the present moment and they're not able to give the best of themselves to their other children or their friends and their family that are around them. So it doesn't serve any useful purpose at this point in time. And again, with a client that I was chatting to the other day, I was saying to her, because she said, oh, my binge drinking, I really destroyed my family. And she said, I've actually been clear, I've not had a single drink for 6 months now, but what the hell do I do with this guilt? And I said, well, if you think about it, your parents, yes, you hurt them at the time, but they were desperate to help you to get better, and you proved to them that, you know, you haven't drunk for sort of 6 months, and you feel absolute certainty that you would never go back to that. So that in itself is a relief to your parents, and the thing that you can do to relieve the guilt is to keep on doing more of what will make them proud. One of the things my dad always used to say is success is the greatest revenge. And I think in this context as well, if you focus on being the best that you can be, then that shines through and will help to dissolve the guilt if you let it. If you keep it sort of there and let it torture you, then that's not going to help either. I remember when I had a clothes shop, I used to feel guilty if I'd nipped out to do something, that I've got to get back to the shop, I've got to get back to the shop. Because also my business partner was, shall we say, a master of manipulation, and you got caught up in this. So sometimes be aware of the people around you that pull your strings, that what game are they playing? It could be a power struggle that makes them feel better on some level, yet you don't have to play that game anymore, you can let it go. Another client of mine who, he's on his 2nd session now, and he's stopped taking cocaine. He had one little try to prove to himself, do I want it or don't I? And he nearly gagged at it and realised, what the hell am I doing? I've blown 20 grand this last year. What am I doing? I've let my parents down. I want to make them proud. And it served to reignite his motivation to think, yeah, I want to leave these drugs in the past. And for him, he's already transformed. Rather than feeling guilty, he's transformed it to a drive to prove to his parents he is worthy and that he can make them proud again. And he knows that this will take time. Sometimes we want an instant sort of, solution. Yet life isn't like that. You know, you put a seed in the ground, and if you checked on it the next day, it's not going to have grown into a plant. In fact, you will actually disturb the seed itself from growing. You need to leave it and let it settle and let it grow by itself by putting a bit of sunshine, a bit of water and a bit of tenderness. And it's the same here. And if you commit to do the right thing, if you've done something bad in the past, then what floats your boat? You know, do you want to set up something that you donate £2, £5, £10 a month to help a child in Africa, or something that you can say to your mind, you know, this is my payment back into society to try and put things right, and in the meantime I'm going to let the guilt go. And if you are suffering from guilt now, I want you to just take a few moments to just close your eyes and wonder, what would it feel like if you imagine now that inside your mind there was a team going in and they were taking away all the guilt. They were just removing it. They were unhooking all those links to the guilt that you had, and they're replacing it with inspiring thoughts and motivating moments of clarity of what you can do to address this issue. Perhaps it's a letter that you need to write to that person to just say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I've grown up now, and I aim to be the best that I can be. And I may make more mistakes, but that's what being a human being is. And the thing is, if you learn by those mistakes, and you make yourself a better person along the way, by perhaps committing to do one act of kindness at least a day, not for reward, not for, oh, I gave this money to charity, something that perhaps nobody even knows about. That's what nourishes our souls. And see, I remember years ago, when I moved to Birmingham, I had a horse, and when I bought my ex-boyfriend out of the share of his house, he was quite a nasty piece of work, and he was quite pleased that I had to sell my horse to fund the sale. In fact, he was more than pleased. He was beside himself with joy of how much he'd hurt me. And that's okay, because as my dad says, success is the greatest revenge. And I said to the people I sold my horse to, you know, if ever you were to sell him, I want first refusal because I want to be able to buy him back. And that's exactly what happened. 3 years later, I bought him back. And then I moved to Birmingham and I opened a clothes shop, and I didn't have the time to give to this horse. And I allowed some other people to look after him. And unbeknownst to me, they weren't really horsey people. They were more animal lovers that didn't understand what a horse needed. And what happened, one day my horse bit one of the people who were looking after him, which was so out of character. And that was a wake-up moment to think, what's going on? And they then shared with me, there's somebody else who wanted to look after Copper for you. And I met Gordon. And Gordon said, I've been trying to get in touch with you for ages, but they wouldn't pass your number on or your details. And so Copper went to Gordon, and Gordon looked after Copper, and he had a few years of being worked and being looked after. And then something awful happened. He got attacked by a load of hornets, the horse that is, and he started having a phobia of going out during the day. So he would stay in the stable all day and he wouldn't go out. And Gordon said, I think what he needs is a change of environment. And I've got somebody in Somerset who would love to have him, who would work him, who has other Shire horses, who would look after him. And I said to Gordon, okay, let's do it. And I knew that my mindset would start to produce guilt, because I felt so much guilt that I'd let Copper down. I hadn't been there for him. I'd put him in the hands of animal lovers who didn't understand him. And now this had happened, and I didn't quite know what to do. So I went to a friend of mine who was a hypnotherapist, and he told me this story. And I know how metaphors worked, and it seemed a ridiculous story about the puppy dogs. And when the bitch has had a load of puppies, there comes a point where she has to let the puppies go. And she has to trust that they'll go to good homes. And that new people will look after those puppies. And I kind of understood the metaphor, and I thought, this is absolutely ridiculous. It's not going to work for me, but okay, if it can help, I'll just be open to it. And the weird thing was, I noticed that there was no guilt. And I couldn't understand why there was no guilt. There was just a space. And I could go back and try and reignite the guilt by thinking, well, I should feel guilty because I let him down and all of that, but I chose not to. And I want you to imagine, even if you are the most sceptical person, what would it be like if a miracle was to happen and your guilt was just gone? And in place of it, you chose to work with the new thoughts that are coming through of the things that you'd love to do that could contribute to society, that could give something back. And you could use that as your understanding of knowing that I can't change the past, but the present is the gift, and I can change my actions now and in the future to put some good back into society or into my relationships by choosing to be the best that you can be. And my voice will go with you to remind you that all you need is within you now. For now is the time to start to come back into the room, to readjust yourself for comfort, and to know the more you come back and listen to this, the more another layer can be lifted. Whether you believe it or not, you can feel the relaxation to allow you now to come back into the room, everything functioning perfectly, feeling at one. And if you click the link below, you can download my free hypnosis recording called Stop Worrying and Create a Wonderful Life. And that too has strategies where you can dump the guilt, you can dump all the worry to one side into this machine. It's a bit like a washing machine, and it spins up new solutions to help you to let go for good of any worry, any negative emotions that are holding you back. Great talking to you today. Bye now.